I've bought 7 investment properties by 35. Here's the 3-phase strategy that helped me do it. Building a property portfolio to achieve financial freedom took me 8 years of research, over $3 million in investments, and a lot of sleepless nights. But through trial and error, I've followed a proven 3-phase strategy that's allowed me to purchase 7 investment properties by the age of 35. This strategy is different from the typical advice that you'll find out there. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's actually a really boring and simple approach, but it works. And it's given me the freedom to continue building my portfolio while starting my own buyer's agency and creating passive income. So in this video, I'm going to break down the exact step-by-step plan that got me here and how it will help me get to where I want to be in the future. But before I get into it, I want to set up some foundations and assumptions for this strategy. The biggest thing you need to remember is that property investing is a long-term game and there is no shortcuts. So before you do anything, we need to assess what your long-term goals are. And a good place to start is to ask yourself, what is my passive income goal? When do I want to achieve this? And when do I want to retire? Knowing the answer to these questions will help set up the foundations of your unique strategy and influence the finer details of how many properties you need to buy, what type of properties they need to be, and how long you need to hold them for. For the sake of demonstrating how this would apply in practice, let's say your goals are to retire 15 years after buying your first property, and you want to be earning $100,000 per year in passive income. Now that you have your goals in mind, you can move on to the first stage of the 3-phase strategy, accumulation. For this, let's say your plan is to contribute a 20% deposit for each property purchase and make interest-only repayments. And based on the historical growth rate, the value of each property will grow by about 7% each year, and the rental yield of each property will be around 5%. The accumulation phase is about buying investment-grade properties in suburbs that are likely to grow in both the short term and the long term. This means that you buy investment properties in suburbs that you can hold on to for at least 10 years. But you also want the properties that are likely to experience short-term growth, because this increase in value is going to help you unlock equity to purchase more properties for your portfolio. When the value of your first property increases, you can use that equity to buy property number 2. And when that one grows, we can do the same thing for properties 3, 4, and so on. This is where I went wrong in my journey. I bought my first property in a really good suburb, but it was an apartment. And I learned the hard way that apartments don't grow in value as quickly as houses. And let me tell you, there are so many property gurus out there who carelessly say that property prices will double every 10 years. It doesn't. There are a lot of things that need to align in an investment for that to happen. And this property missed the mark on a lot of them. I actually had to wait 4 years before I was able to pull out equity from this property to buy my third property. But of course, long-term growth is also crucial, because as the value of properties grow, it will bring down your loan to value ratio, devalue your debt, and give you the option to sell them in the future at a significant profit. That profit becomes important in the 3rd phase of the plan. But before then, in this case, let's say you give yourself 5 years to accumulate 4 properties. If you bought 4 properties for $500,000 each, at the end of the 5 years, your portfolio would be worth around $2.26 million, because the first couple of properties would have grown a bit. Now, you can move on to phase 2, consolidation. During the consolidation phase, your main focus should be to save as much money as possible, increase your liquidity, and let inflation do its thing to devalue your debt. And if you bought some solid investment properties in the accumulation phase and they all grew by 7% each year, which is the historical average, the value of your portfolio would grow like this: from 2.3 million to 2.4 million in year 6, from 2.4 million to 2.6 million in year 7, from 2.6 million to 3.2 million in year 10, and from 3.2 million to 3.6 million in year 12. And if we assume you'll be making interest-only repayments on the loans, then the value of the debt will remain the same. Now, you might be wondering how that's possible. Well, one of the few advantages of inflation is that as the value of your portfolio continues to grow, the loan to value ratio starts to go down. So your debt is actually being devalued over time. While that's all happening in the background, I learned that during the consolidation phase, you should be aggressively saving your money by putting any spare cash savings into your offset accounts to reduce the interest repayments and pay off your debt. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're able to save $3,000 per month for 12 years. That would add up to around $432,000 in cash savings. This amount of cash is enough to pay off one of your property's debts of $400,000. If this money was sitting in an offset account, the interest repayments would be almost next to nothing because the entire loan would have been offset by your savings. By year 13, you should be ready to move on to the final phase, the liberate phase. Here's where you liberate yourself after all the years of working hard to buy your properties and holding them while you wait for them to grow in value. You do this by selling down some of your properties and using the profits from those sales to pay off the debt for the remaining properties. This doesn't have to happen all at once. You can space it out over a couple of years, depending on how the market is going at the time, but the process will allow you to own the remaining properties outright and live off the rental income. If we look at the numbers, your property portfolio should be worth around 3.6 to 3.9 million. And if you made interest-only repayments, your remaining debt will still be around 1.8 million. So in this case, you could sell 2 properties and use the profits to pay off the remaining debt of the 2 properties you want to keep. Assuming a rental yield of 5%, these 2 properties will be earning a passive income of $103,000 per year, which means you've met and exceeded your passive income goal of $100,000 per year. And here's where it gets better. If you're able to aggressively save enough money to offset 1 or 2 properties, you might not even have to sell 2 properties or any to receive the same benefit. And if you have enough cash savings to offset all your debts, you could pay little to no interest while continuing to hold your properties. This would be the ideal scenario, just because you'll be able to hold on to an extra asset and have an extra property earning passive income, plus you'd be able to avoid the capital gains tax you have to pay when selling an asset. So that's the strategy that's got me to 7 properties so far as I work towards reaching financial freedom for me and my family. I'm still in the accumulation phase and hoping to pick up another 3 properties before moving on to consolidation mode. Then the plan is to aggressively save to pay down the debt before eventually transitioning into semi-retirement and living off the rental income. The 3-phase strategy I outlined provides a standard framework for building a property portfolio to achieve financial freedom. But there can be different variations within each phase depending on your personal situation and goals. For example, in the accumulation phase, you may take on more renovations or subdivisions to speed up the equity growth if you have a high risk tolerance. This could help you build your portfolio sooner. The other thing you could do is start making principal and interest repayments on one property earlier or during the consolidation phase. This gives you a head start on paying down some of the debt. You might even have bigger goals and want to build a bigger portfolio than mine. And this will leave you with more properties compounding in value in the long term. Regardless of how you tweak the details, the keys are patience, perseverance, and realistic goal settings. I hope walking through this strategy has given you a solid framework and some ideas on how to build your own property portfolio. Whenever you're ready to get into your accumulation phase, I'll be here to help you find a high-performing property that will not only suit your personal goals, but also set your portfolio up for long-term success. Otherwise, if you've gotten value from this, make sure to like and subscribe for more content geared towards helping you achieve financial success through property investing.